Hi everybody, welcome back. Today we're looking at Jeremy Duff, Elements of New Testament Greek. We're looking at practice 3.6. Apologies, by the way, for the mistake in the previous video when I said we were looking at section 3.5. We were looking at section 3.6, of course, as you will have spotted if you were following along in Duff, as I'm encouraging you to do. There we were looking at the personal pronoun, the third person pronoun, autos. This practice 3.6, is a series of exercises designed just to help you to work out in practice and to practice using the pronoun autos. Of course, you know that's masculine, feminine, neuter, autos, auton, autu, auto, and so on. Auter, auten, autes, auter, and the feminine, then the neuter, auto, auto, autu, auto, and then down into the plurals for all three of them. And here we've got three examples from exercise 3.6 on page 40. I want to go through them with you because these highlight some of the things to watch out for that you'll need to be aware of if you're going to learn to use these pronouns accurately and to recognize them correctly. So here goes. Let's take a look at these and we'll do them one at a time. Number 2, it's right there on page 40. Tous logus autu didaske. Tous logus autu didaske. How do we go about translating this? Always, always, always find the verb first. Discipline yourself to do that. Pause for a second. Can you find the verb? Yes, of course you can. Didaske comes from didasko, meaning I teach or I am teaching. And so you go down in your head, maybe you even want to do it on the paper. Didasko, didaskes, didaske, didaskomen, didaskete, didaskusin. Didasko, didaskes, didaske. So that's the third person singular form of didasko, meaning he or she or it teaches, or he, she, it is teaching. So I'm going to write all those down. He or she or it teaches or is teaching. And I encourage you always, when you're writing a gloss down, that is to say a rough initial translation, do bear in mind the variety of different translations for any word. And in this case there are 3 times 2, at least 6 ways of translating didaske, and we'll have all those down there. So that's the verb didaske, he, she, or it is teaching. Verb, next, look for the subject. Is there a lexicalized subject in this sentence? There could be, because it's a third person verb. So is there something in the nominative in this sentence? No, that's not nominative, neither is that. Okay, so subject is he, she, or it, built into the verb. The verb is teaches or is teaching. Verb, subject, what do you look for next? You look for the object, so you're looking for something in the accusative case. Can you find anything in the accusative case? Pause, take a look, and you can see, of course, that there are 2 words in the accusative case. These are both in the accusative plural. This is the article, ho ton tu to hoi tous, accusative plural of the article ho, meaning the. Logus, logos, logon, logu, logo, logoi, logus. That's from logos, meaning a word. And therefore, this is plural, so it's the words. And because it's accusative, that's indicating that it is the object of the verb he, she, or it is teaching, or he, she, or it teaches. So the words, and you might want to, I don't know how you do this on your rough paper, but I always want to encourage people to feel free to get, these things like this and just put a little arrow up here to tell you the words are up here, just to remind you where it belongs in the sentence. So he, she, or it is teaching the words, and you've got 1 word left. So the way to translate always is verb, subject, object, everything else. And everything else, well, when we get more of everything else to look at in the future, we'll work out what order to put those in. But at the moment, you've only got one other thing, and it's autu. And that is the third person pronoun. And so you cast your mind back and you look, if you need to, over the previous page, you will discover that autu is the genitive singular third person pronoun in either the masculine or the neuter gender. So it's genitive singular, so genitive it's of, masculine or neuter, it's either him or it. So it's the words of him or the words of it. So strictly speaking, it could therefore be, the translation of the sentence as a whole, he, she, or it teaches, or he, she, or it is teaching his words or its words. And there is no way of deciding simply from this sentence which of those is the correct translation. Only the context will tell you, and if this were coming from a wider context in which, let's say, donkey was speaking, then you might find yourself saying that she or he or it is teaching the words of its words, the donkey's words. Although in this case, the most logical option in general is probably that it's a person, a man speaking, therefore the words of him, his words, and in the example, in the answer at the back, Duff has plumped for she is teaching his words. She is teaching his words. And I think he's plumped for that feminine subject, just to remind you that when you have the verb on its own, there's no guarantee that it will be he is teaching. It could be it, and it could be she. So well done, Jeremy Duff. Thanks for that reminder that there's no way of telling the gender of the subject from the verb. You can only tell the number. Okay, so tous logous autou didaske. She is teaching his words. That's the first example. Let me just get rid of a little bit of this so we've got some space to work on the second one, and we'll get a different colour for that just to avoid any confusion. Let's look at this then. So now we're going to go from English into Greek. Going from English into Greek is always harder when it's Greek that you're learning, because going into the unfamiliar language is difficult. The language you're going into, you need to know better in order to go into it well. And therefore, they see the slave. We're going to need to think carefully about this. So they see, always look for the verb, and you can easily see the verb in English is see, and you need to know the subject in order to translate it into Greek. They see, so we're going to need the verb blepo, which means I see, but we're going to need they see, so we need to know the person and the number. It's third person plural. So we go blepo, blepes, blepe, blepomen, blepete, blepusin, blepusin, blepusin. They see the slave. They see the slave. The slave is the object. So doulos is a slave in the nominative case. That's the case you learn it in. Accusative case, it's doulon. And of course, the article which agrees with that is ton doulon. So they see the slave, blepusin ton doulon. So why on earth, you might ask yourself, has Jeremy Duff given you this one to practice in a section about the pronoun, the third person pronoun? The answer, of course, is that he was hoping that you would make the mistake, maybe he wasn't hoping, but he was aware that some people might make the mistake of seeing this and thinking, oh, pronoun, plural, third person, masculine maybe, or feminine or neuter, but you pick a gender. And the danger is that somebody who's high on pronouns would then think, okay, so now we need to have an autoi, if let's say you pick the masculine nominative plural, autoi blepusin ton doulon. And of course you don't need to do that. The third person pronoun is only used in the nominative case for emphasis and for other reasons which we'll come to later in the book. At this stage, do not use it just to articulate the subject of a verb when the subject is he or she or it, because the subject of the verb, they see, is already built into the verb itself. So a little reminder, that's why this one is here. And if you wrote autoi blepusin ton doulon, then you're wrong, because that's not how you translate they see the slave. That's how you translate a slightly different sentence. And you'll get to that in a few weeks or months' time if you keep working hard. Okay, so that's number 6. We've done number 2. Number 8. Jesus loves their children. Jesus loves their children. Okay, well, let's just do the usual thing. Find the verb. You found it, well done. The verb in English is loves. Now, who loves? Is it first, second, or third person? Who is the person here who is loving? It's Jesus. And if it's a lexicalized third person who is doing the action, then we need to put the verb in the third person. And there's only one Jesus, so we want the third person singular of the verb I love. I love is philo. So philo, philes, philae. Philae. He loves. Verb. Subject. Jesus. How do you write Jesus in Greek? Well, you know that from a couple of videos ago. Jesus in the nominative singular is written like that, Iesus. But you also know from a few videos and a few sections back in Duff's book that the article is customarily used with proper names. So when you're saying God does something, we customarily say ho theos as a subject, not just theos. Sometimes the article is omitted in Greek, but at this stage you should learn to include the article. So when we say Jesus loves, we should write ho Iesus philei. Ho Iesus philei, not just Iesus philei. And remember just the pronunciation of this, it's very, very tempting to go Jesus rather than Iesus, but I encourage you to articulate the vowels separately because they're not a diphthong, they're separate sounds, and that will help you to remember the spelling of the word. Okay, so ho Iesus philei, Jesus loves. Now, what's the object? Well, the object is their children, but the way to translate this into Greek is to first turn their children into something else. Pause for a second. How should you rephrase this in English before trying to translate it into Greek in order to get the possessive form right? Just pause for a second. Hopefully you've remembered that the best way, the intermediate step, so to speak, to go through to translate this correctly is to turn their children first into the children of them. The children of them. And that way you'll be able to clarify in your mind that this is the part of the sentence that goes in the accusative case, the children. So what's children? Okay, children is, or child is teknon. That's to teknon. You've learned it in the nominative singular, so if it's teknon, that must be a neuter noun. So it's teknon, teknon, teknu, tekno, tekna, tekna, teknon, teknois. So ta, accusative, neuter, plural, tekna. Ho Iesus philei ta tekna. Jesus loves the children. Well, how do we write the children of them? That is to say, how do we write their children? That's easy. We want the of, genitive, them, plural, third person pronoun. So it's third person plural, and in the masculine, neuter, and feminine forms, it's always the same. The genitive plural is always the same. It's auton, and we write that like this. Auton, ho Iesus philei ta tekna auton. So that is the translation of Jesus loves their children. Jesus loves the children of them. Now, these case endings and so on. Anyway. All right, so that'll do for now. That's section 3.6. Have a look at that practice in section 3.6. Keep working through all those. And then in the next couple of videos, I will give you some tips and hints for how to learn the vocab, some mnemonics for the vocab at the end of chapter 3, which you should already be trying to learn if you've got to this stage. And then we'll look at some of the exercises at section A at the end of chapter 3. And then we will have got to the end of another chapter of Duff's book. You'll be well on your way to reading the New Testament in Greek. So keep going, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, keep working hard. God bless you. Any comments and questions in the comments box below, and I'll see you again next time.